Great. So now since you have understood what quantification means, it is very important that you now frame your business idea in terms of making it more detailed. It will help you evaluate, prioritize, select, and ideate well, right? So there could be multiple frameworks. Uh, I personally like a framework which is called business model canvas. I think every entrepreneur should develop a business model canvas and should continue to review it on a monthly basis. Now, what is a business model canvas? It is basically 9 levers, which are very well distributed across revenue and um, cost levers. So let me to start with the first lever. I think it is apps. You will be able to connect with it if you have watched some of the previous videos in this playlist. So the first one is customer segments, which we covered and identify, right? That who are your target customer groups, what are their needs, behaviors, and preferences. The second one is great. Once you have identified the need, what is the specific product and service that you plan to supply or to you plan to sell to the identified customer segments. The third is channels. That great. I mean, what are the specific channels you will use to sell your product or service? So whether it will be online, whether it will be offline, etc., etc. And once you do that, it is extremely important that you also focus on exploring what kind of relationships you want to establish with your customers and how you plan to acquire, retain, and growing your customer relationships. Because ultimately, every business is about managing customer relationships well, right? And once you do that, then your revenue streams become extremely clear, basically, right? So, which is how your product or service is reaching customers and essentially what kind of distribution channels, sales channels, and communication channels you'll be using. And once you do that, it is extremely important for you to focus on your operating lever, which is looking at the key resources you would need to kind of uh, sell your product or service to the potential customers, right? There could be physical assets, physical resources, there could be financial resources, the money that you need to kind of manufacture or create the product or service, the IP, the human resources that you might need as a part of a team, etc. Right? So critically important to focus on key resources. And what are some of the key activities that you would need to do? So what are the most critical activities that your business would need to do to kind of operate and sell your products and services successfully, across production, across customer support, across marketing, across distribution and sales, etc. And based on that, what are some of the key partners that you would need to ensure that your operating and business model runs seamlessly, right? So, what are some of the external partners and suppliers who are critical to your business and operating models, and what could be the collaboration strategies for the MOUs or the agreements that you would need to have with each of these, key partners? And based on that, based on 7, 8, and 9, sorry, 6, 7, and 8, which is key resources, key activities, and key partners. You need to outline the cost associated with operating your business, which could be related to the key resources that you need from a tech perspective, from a human resource perspective, from a manufacturing perspective, in case you are going to be a manufacturing business, and so on and so forth. What could be the fixed cost? What could be, the variable costs, and how over a period of time, as you continue to grow, these costs are going to streamline themselves, optimize themselves, right? With some of the best practices that you plan to implement, right? Now, this is a good concept, a good framework for you to frame. Let me explain it through an example, right? All of us are big fans, big subscribers of Netflix, so I couldn't think of a better model. But say, for example, for Netflix, right? It is extremely important for us to understand that who are their customer segments, right? So today, Netflix is in more than 200 countries. This slide is slightly dated, but yeah, it should give you a good idea about what I'm trying to speak. So they have about 250 million paid subscribers across close to 200 countries. And what they have done is they have segregated these paid subscribers into 2000 plus preference clusters based on the individual households, based on the geographies, the vernacular nature, basically the linguistic background of these customer segments, the devices that they use, whether it's they are consuming that content on a mobile phone or on a TV, etc. Right? And there are a lot of other parameters that they have used. Now, in terms of value proposition, as we know, right, Netflix, is a 24 by 7 on demand entertainment, and they are doing their own content right now in terms of HD shows and movies. And they are also, the idea behind their value proposition is that you just subscribe to them and you can continue watching any content that they offer. Netflix original is their original content, which they started as a hook many years back, and essentially the idea was that it's not only about licensing other third-party content, but if they can create their own good content, it will continue driving customer loyalty. No commercials ads. All of us get annoyed with commercials or ads when we see them while consuming any kind of content. So that was always clear from their side. And yes, in order to acquire a customer, they were very clear that they will start with a 30 days free trial and so on and so forth. Now, how would they provide this to their customer segment in terms of channels? They made sure that they are device agnostic. So, right from a small mobile phone, basic smart device, to as large as a television screen or smart projectors, they are available everywhere. They have an app. They did number of online ads to initially to acquire the customer base. But having said that, for them, I think word of mouth was the strongest bit, right? And in terms of customer relations, I'm very sure that a lot of you might know this, that there is no number that, there is no customer service representative in Netflix that you can speak to. And that's what they were very clear, that they will design the customer experience in a way that customers should be able to service themselves well. So there is a self-service module that they have, and it's pretty much on demand, and it's very well integrated with their app, and it's absolutely seamless in case you encounter any issue on Netflix ever. And based on that, what are their revenue streams? So they have a subscription model, and they have kind of customized the subscription model by various geographies, right? Then they have done product placements, right? And so, say for example, if you're watching a movie, in some of the popular theater chains like PVR, etc. In a lot of movies, you'll see that they are coming as the OTT partners for a lot of content, right? And last but not the least, I think they continue to increase their own content, and for which they will have exclusive revenue rights, right? Now, in order to survive all this, what are the key resources? Of course, brand is extremely important. So they spend significantly on branding. Then their apps, that their technology has to be top notch, and consistently they need to upgrade. Their AI algorithm has to be great, because I'm very sure that you have experienced this, that based on whatever you have seen on Netflix, it recommends you really relevant content, right? So that model also needs to continue innovating well. The employees, they need to have the best of talent. They need to work with the best of filmmakers and producers for the original content that they are producing, and essentially they also need to do some sort of awards to stay relevant with the supply side ecosystem on the content side. And essentially on the activity side, a lot of technology research and development, because ultimately their entire platform is backed by very high end tech, content licensing, production, distribution, data analytics, sales, and marketing. And who are their key partners? They need money, of course. So they need to be backed by investors, media producers, filmmaker guides, TV networks, Amazon, AWS, consumer electronic companies, and regulators. And in order to do that, there's a lot of cost, right? Which is essentially associated with production, R&D, licensing, marketing, payments, right? I mean, you are doing digital payments, so they need to work with a lot of payment providers and pay a little bit of fee, general admin, and so on and so forth. So now looking at how this business model canvas kind of made the Netflix's business and operating model super clear, you can definitely make sure that it's going to unfold a lot of power for your business model and need as well.